From the haunted castles of Europe to the cursed ruins of India, these are places where the walls still whisper and the dead refuse to rest. Tonight we're crossing the continents and centuries to uncover the world's most haunted legends. I'm Matt Harvey of Deep Woods Paranormal, and this is Haunted Legends of the World. Alright guys, so welcome back to the Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. Again, my name is Matt Harvey. I'm the founder and lead investigator with Deep Woods Paranormal, and we are making the paranormal normal. So on tonight's episode, we're going to talk about Winchester Mystery House. We're going to talk about Eastern State Penitentiary. That's a good one. We're going to talk about the Tower of London, and maybe even the Bloody Mary. Where does Bloody Mary come from, right? When you look in the mirror and do your ritual. Okay, Salem, Massachusetts, the witches who never left. Poveglia Island, Venice's forbidden island of the dead. Edinburgh Castle, ghosts of war and blood. I've actually been to Edinburgh. That's a crazy place. We actually caught a picture of something there. Charlottesville Castle, the children's spirit of Ireland. We've been there too. Bhangarh Fort, excuse me, I apologize if I'm murdering these. Island's cursed fortress. Okay, and that's pretty much it. We're going to talk about those 8 locations, so let's get into this. All right, so let's talk about the Winchester Mystery House. This was built, this is a sprawling Victorian mansion in San Jose, California. This was famously built by Sarah Winchester, the widow of rifle maker William Winchester. The home is known for its bizarre architectural features, and the legend that Sarah Winchester built it continuously for 38 years to appease the spirits of those killed by Winchester rifles. All right. So the history and construction. The construction of the eight-room famous house began in 1884 and continued until Sarah Winchester's death in 1922. After experiencing the deaths of her infant daughter and her husband, she was supposedly told by a medium that her family was to be haunted by the ghosts of all those killed by Winchester rifles. She was advised to build a home to confuse the spirits, and construction was only stopped when she died. Some historians argue that the haunted story was sensationalized by early tourism operations, that Sarah's renovations were a reflection of her personal architectural interests and grief. So the results is a huge house filled with puzzling and beautiful architecture and elements. So the size of this place, it's over 160 rooms. It's got 47 fireplaces, 17 chimneys, 13 bathrooms, 6 kitchens, all converting into 24,000 square feet. Wow, imagine trying to clean all that. Oddities. So staircases that lead to ceilings, doors that open into solid walls or dead-end drops, and windows that look into other rooms. Innovation features, despite particularly, the mansion also features technological advances of its area, including wool insulation, indoor plumbing, and advanced heating systems. That's cool. So the number 13 appears to repeat itself throughout the house many times. 13 window panes, 13 steps to each staircase. All right. So if you guys want to go check this place out, you've never been there. We actually went, but unfortunately we didn't get to go in because we had dogs with us and we couldn't leave the dogs out in the heat. All right. So there's been many books about this location. We're not going to get into this because I think I've talked about the Winchester Mystery House before. But I do want to talk about the common ghost reports. Shadowy figures. The most frequently reported phenomenon is the sighting of a shadowy human-shaped figures moving down the hallways and around the corners and appearing in windows. Disembodied voice sounds. Visitors and guides often hear unexplained noises such as footsteps, whispering, slamming doors, or the sound of phantom hammering and sawing. Sarah Winchester was known to play and pump a pump organ, and some visitors have claimed to hear ghostly organ music. All right. So people also report experiencing sudden cold spots, the feeling of an invisible hand tapping them on the back, or even a push. Specific apparitions. A handyman has been seen. A figure believed to be a former handyman with jet black hair was also seen in the ballroom area, sometimes pushing a spectral wheelbarrow or working on a fireplace. Sarah Winchester herself, a small dark figure believed to be Sarah herself, has been spotted by a tour guide near the Daisy bedroom, a room where she was once trapped during the 1906 earthquake. The woman in black. Yeah, we just talked about the woman in white, right? Okay, a recurring sighting by one or tour guide was a mysterious woman in black who would appear at the back of the tour group, a figure that the guide later suspected to be Mrs. Winchester, so she was just all dressed in black for some reason. All right, phantom smells. Now, I've experienced this a few times, but inexpensible. Okay, whatever, I can't even spell that. The smell of chicken soup has been reported in the kitchen, even though the kitchen isn't in operation. All right, so other anomalies. Staff have noticed specific rocking chairs that move on its own, and an elaborate alarm system that frequently goes off with a clear cause, which some attribute to the paranormal activity. All right. That's pretty interesting. So yeah, I've never actually been there. I know if you watch the shows, you've seen them do the ghost hunts at this location. I'm sure more than a few of the ghost hunters have done different types of paranormal research here. But we've got a lot of these to cover, and I'm not going to get too much into these today. So if you guys want to know more about this, or you want me to do a full podcast episode just on different things I can find, more detailed podcasts about this location, let me know below. Leave a comment. All right, so this is a good one too. Eastern State Penitentiary. So it says voices behind the walls is the most likely to refer to the Voices of Eastern State Penitentiary audio tour, the official self-guided tour of the historical site. Narrated by Steve Buscemi, the tour incorporates the actual voices and stories of people who were formerly incarcerated or worked at the penitentiary. Let me see if there's any history about it here real quick. Because I did type in history, but it doesn't actually show history. Google's going to help us with this. Okay, Eastern State Penitentiary was operational from 1829 to 1971 and was the world's first true penitentiary, designed to reform criminals through a controversial system of solitary confinement, and is now a National Historical Landmark and museum. Let's see, the Pennsylvania system in 1829 through 1913, the prison was founded on belief advocated by the Philadelphia Society of Elevating Mysteries of Public Prisons, blah, blah, blah. They figure that basically would stop people from being able to talk to each other. So they designed the building with a radical wheel wagon or radial plan featuring 7 cell blocks radiating from a central hub, allowing guards to oversee, observe, and all cell blocks easily. So imagine a wagon wheel, and the guards are in the middle, and each spoke is basically one of these cell blocks. So isolation. Inmates lived alone, ate alone, and exercised only in individual private yards. When moved outside their cells, they wore hoods to prevent any human contact. Wow. Cells were surprisingly advanced for their era, with ceiling heat and indoor plumbing, but the toll of complete solitude was immense. Critics, including Charles Dickens, who visited in 1842, described the system as cruel and cause of insanity. Wow. So yeah, basically it was only open until 1971. Let's see. Notable inmates. It housed notorious criminals, including gangster Al Capone, who spent 8 months here in 1929. Bank robber Slick Willie, Sutton was also an inmate and participated in famous tunnel escape in 1945. So, Eastern State Penitentiary is widely regarded as one of the most haunted locations in the United States, with a myriad of paranormal activity reported by both visitors and staff. These occurrences are often attributed to the extreme psychological distress caused by its original system and solitary confinement and the harsh conditions and punishment prisoners faced. So, again, a lot of these places are going to have a lot of the same things, same types of haunts, but some places just have it more than others. So, shadow figures. One of the most frequent sightings is of a dark, fleet shadow figure. These apparitions are often seen darting along the walls of cell block 6 and 12, or disappearing down long corridors and when approached. A dark figure has also been reported seen standing atop one of the guards' towers. Disembodied voices and noises. Visitors and employees often hear unexplained sounds throughout the facility, including loud crackling and echoing screams, particularly in cell block 12, whispering, giggling, weeping, and distressed moans, unexplained banging, slamming doors, and footsteps when no one is around. So people have reported feeling a sudden, intense negative energy or overwhelming pressure, on their chest and shortening of breath in certain areas. Some visitors even claim to be touched, grabbed, or scratched by unseen forces, notably in cell block 4. So apparitions beyond shadow figures, specific apparitions have been described. The soup lady, yeah. A mysterious woman in white, again the lady in white, is said to haunt a cell on the second floor where the women's cell block was located. Also, a former guard has been cited believed to be still keeping watch over the prison guards. So famous haunts: Al Capone's cell, notorious mobster Al Capone, served an 8-month sentence here, blah, blah, blah. We've already read that. Let's see. Inmates in nearby cells claim to hear Capone screaming and begging for the spirit to leave him alone. So supposedly he was haunted by the ghost of James Clark, a victim of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Let's see. Pep the dog. Ooh, cool. Pep, a black Labrador retriever who was given an inmate number and served as their therapy dog, is rumored still roam the cell blocks. The sound of his dog tags jagging, whatever, has been reported by visitors. Interesting. And it's been, of course, this is one of the most famous places that's ever been investigated by pretty much every paranormal TV show out there. Okay. Sorry, guys. I put in paranormal activity. I had all this stuff listed out for myself, and for some reason it's disappearing as I go here. All right. So let's talk about the Tower of London. Is widely considered one of the most haunted locations in Britain, with centuries of history, executions, and imprisonments leading to numerous reports of paranormal activity. Ghostly reports come from both visitors and people that live within the walls, with the most famous apparitions including the notable ghost Anne Boleyn, King Henry VIII's second wife, who was beheaded on the Tower Greens in 1536. Is the tower's most famous, frequently cited ghost. The reports say she's often seen wandering the Tower Green and the chapel of St. Peter's ad Vincula, where she is buried. Many witnesses report seeing her headless body leading a procession of Tudor-era lords and ladies down the chapel aisle. A sentry once claimed to have challenged her figure with his bayonet and was knocked unconscious by a shocking force. Wow, crazy. The Prince in the Tower. The young King Edward V and his brother Richard, Duke of York, disappeared in 1483 while imprisoned in the Bloody Tower by their uncle, the future Richard III. The reports of apparitions of two small boys in white nightgowns and clutching each other in terror are often seen in the Bloody Tower and occasionally playing on the battlements of the White Tower. Children have been reported interacting with other boys. So they like to play with the kids. They come on the tours or come into the location. Another lady in white. The lady in white, an unidentified female spirit who haunts the White Tower. Visitors and staff report overwhelming scent of cheap, strong perfume that accompanies her presence. She has been seen waving to children from a window and is commonly the source of unexplained chills and sensations of being watched. So Margaret Pole, Countess of Salisbury, executed in a famous, gruesome, and botched manner in 1541 at the age of 72 after refusing to place her head on the block. Crazy. Reports on the anniversary of her death, witnesses report seeing her screaming phantom running around the scaffold area, pursued by a ghost executioner hacking at her with an axe. Ooh, that's creepy. So Annabelle Stewart, a cousin of Elizabeth I, imprisoned by James I for marrying without royal consent. She died in the Queen's house in 1615, possibly of starvation. The reports of her ghost is said to stalk the Queen's house. Okay. Phantom Bear. The spectral bear, part of the tower's history as a royal. So basically, a bear is seen around the Marlin Tower. Okay. There's just not very much to that. That's why I didn't read the rest of that. So reports in one famous 19th century incident, a sentry who saw the bear reportedly thrust his bayonet at it, only for the weapon to pass right through the guard. The guard fainted from fright and died 2 days later. Wow. Okay. A lot to take in there, guys. Again, have you guys been here? I would love to go here. We've been to London, but we've never, unfortunately, been to the Tower of London. We were just there passing through, going to Ireland and Scotland, unfortunately. So, really cool location. I've heard a lot about it. Would love to go there. Like I said, have you been there? Leave a comment down below. What have you heard about these locations so far? Again, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear about it. All right. Salem, Massachusetts. We've talked about this a little bit before. Stuff keeps moving on my desk every time. Here we go. Okay. Just want to make sure we have everything here. All right. Salem, Massachusetts. The witches who never left appears to be a description used to characterize the city's enduring association with the 1692 witch trials and its modern day witch city identity. So basically, it's talking about the witch trials that happened back in the late 1600s, early 1700s. Horrible situation. But basically, everybody was accused. All these women were accused of being bewitched and were killed. Men too, but there was mainly women. So historical context in 1692 trials were a case of mass hysteria where 200 people were accused and 19 hanged. None of them were actually witches in the modern practicing sense, but rather victims of rigid Puritan society facing hardship and paranoia. Okay. So there's not a lot about it. It just basically talks about tours and history and all that stuff. So let's get into the hauntings. So the haunted locations, no, that's not this. Okay, why did it not go back into... All right, sorry about that. Instead of coming up with this location. So Salem, Massachusetts is widely considered one of the most haunted cities due to its history in 1692, witch trials, and centuries of other tragic events. Ghostly activities is rumored to numerous historical locations, many of which are stops in the city's most popular ghost tours. So if you've ever taken a ghost tour there, you might have seen these places. All right, so Witch's House at Salem. The only structure still standing with direct ties to the trials, as it was the home of Judge Jonathan Corwin. Visitors and staff report heavy, somber energy, cold spots, and sightings of a stern, shadowy figure of the judge himself. All right. So Joshua Ward's house. This house is built on the foundation of the home of the burial sheriff George Corwin, who was formerly known for torturing accused victims. Guests at the hotel built on the site have reported feeling of uneasy forces choking or crushing them, as well as unexperienced. Basically, they've gotten scratches. The way they've worded this is really weird, guys. So if I stop to read it again, it's because it's some of the wording, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm kind of skipping over some of this. Okay, the burying point, basically where they buried the witches. As one of the oldest cemeteries in the country, established in 1637, it's a central hub for paranormal reports. The spirit of Judge Joe Hawthorne, who condemned many to death, is said to roam the grounds, and often visitors hear disembodied voices or a feeling of overwhelming sense of grief. Okay, Proctor's Ledge Memorial. This is actual historically confirmed site where the 19 innocent victims of the trials were actually hanged. Visitors and paranormal investigators report intense sorrowful energy, glowing orbs, and the feeling that the spirits of the condemned are still present, seeking peace and acknowledgement. That's sad. The House of Seven Gables. I mean, we've all pretty much heard of this. The inspiration for Nathaniel Hawthorne's novel, this mansion is the site of reported ghastly children apparitions and the feeling of being watched. Okay. So the Rope Mansion and Gardens. This mansion, featured in the movie Hocus Pocus, oh cool, is reported haunted by Abigail Ropes, who died a gruesome death by fire. Visitors sometimes report the smell of smoke in her presence. Crazy. And last but not least, the Hawthorne Motel. So guests at this historical hotel, named after Nathaniel Hawthorne, report strange occurrences including flickering lights, moving furniture, and ghostly figures in the hallway. Cool. So there's a lot of ghost tours and stuff that you guys can go check out too. If you've ever been on a ghost tour here, I have. It was a lot of fun. I was too young and I hadn't even started my paranormal journey yet, so well, I kind of did. But we basically went to the witches museum and stuff like that, and had a good time. So, okay, so Poveglia Island, and this is in Venice's Forbidden Island of the Dead. So I don't know if I've heard of this. I know there's one down either in South America or in Africa. I can't remember where it is, but basically there's an island where there's a bunch of dolls. I don't think this is that one. Okay, so it's an uninhabited island in the Venetian lagoon, known for its dark history and purported paranormal activity. This sounds really cool. While entry has been forbidden for safety and legal reasons for decades, a civil group secured a lease in 2025 to develop a portion of the island to be a private park for locals. That's cool. So let's talk about the history. It has a grim history stemming from its use of quarantine and asylum site. Okay, so it was basically people with the plague were put on this island during several bubonic plague outbreaks, particularly in the 14th and 17th century. This was designated as a quarantine colony. Those with even minor symptoms were sent to the island to die of isolation. So there's mass graves. As the plagues worsened, the dead were buried in mass graves and even burned. According to the legend, over 160,000 plague victims were buried here. And the island's soil is said to consist of human ash and remains. Ooh, crazy. All right, so it was also a mental asylum. In 1922, the island's existing buildings were converted into a mental hospital. Legends claim that a sadistic doctor performed inhuman experiments on patients at this facility. Oh, geez. I'm not going to go more into that. It says, according to the myth, the doctor was driven mad by the ghost of the plagued victims and threw himself in the hospital's bell tower. Threw himself from the bell tower. So basically, he committed suicide. The mental hospital eventually closed in 1968, and the island's been abandoned ever since. Okay. So I'm not going to go into that. Paranormal legends, local lore, and ghost hunters shows have popularized the notion that the island is heavily haunted by the spirits of those who died there, deterring many from approaching it. All right, so let's talk about the paranormal activity. So, disembodied voices, apparitions, physical encounters, and the inexplicable sound of disconnected bells tolling. So, like bell towers. Audio phenomenon, people claim to hear screams, moans, and cries of the plague victims and asylum patients, as well as laughter from the supposed ghost of asylum patients. The phantom sound from the bell, on the island, is also frequently reported, even though it was removed decades ago. People also see ghostly apparitions and shadow figures and can commonly report in and around abandoned hospitals and buildings. Faces have been reportedly seen peering from hospital windows, and the spirit of young plague victim, little Maria, is said to be roaming the beach crying. That's sad. Physical sensations, visitors often report the overwhelming sense of the dead, of dread, sorrow, and an oppressive evil feeling upon stepping on the island. There are also accounts of people being physically pushed, shoved, and scratched by unseen forces. Paranormal investigators, teams, and urban explorers have reported capturing EVPs and experiencing unexplained phenomena like motion sensors being triggered in empty rooms. One TV host even claimed to have been briefly possessed. Yeah, no, I don't think so. In addition to Little Maria, the Main, and the Mad Doctor, legends mention other specific spirits, such as the patient with amputated legs whose phantom wheelchair can be heard rolling down the corridors. All right, so let's keep going because we're getting low on time here. So the Edinburgh Castle is widely considered to be one of the most haunted places in Scotland. It is, with its history of bloody battles, sieges, and executions, giving rise to numerous ghost stories directly to war and violence. Okay. So, Ghosts of War and Blood. This is basically talking about the hauntings. The headless drummer boy, one of the most famous apparitions, is that of a young headless drummer boy. He was reported first seen in 1650, playing an old Scottish war tune on the battlements just before Oliver Cromwell's army led siege into the castle. Its appearance is considered an omen of imminent attack, and while he hasn't been seen since the uprising in 1745, the sound of his drumming is still reportedly heard today. There's a phantom piper, a young piper boy was sent to explore the network of newly discovered underground tunnels leading from the castle towards Royal Mile. He was instructed to play his bagpipes so his song progress could be tracked from above. The music abruptly stopped near Tron Kirk, and the boy was never seen again. Visitors and residents still claim to hear the faint ghostly sound of bagpipes echoing beneath the streets. So, prisoners of war. The castle dungeons held thousands of prisoners over the centuries, including French prisoners from the 7 Years' War, and colonial prisoners from the American Revolutionary War. Visitors and staff had reported encounters with the restless spirits, as well as experiencing sudden temperature drops, shadowy figures, and the feeling of being touched and pushed in the dungeon area. Construction workers in 2003 even reported being harassed by ghostly Neapolitan prisoners. The Dung prisoner. An unfortunate prisoner attempted a desperate escape by hiding in a barrel of human waste, hoping to be wheeled out of the castle undetected. Instead, the barrel was callously tipped from the high battlements and fell to his death on the rocks below. Oh my goodness. This ghost is still said to roam the area, and some visitors report a sudden horrible smell and feeling from being pushed up on the battlements, so way on top of the castle. Okay, so we're not going to get into that. So let's get into the paranormal reports. The feeling of dread and cold spots. Many people report the feeling of sudden temperature drops, a sense of unease, or being overcome by the feeling of dread and sadness, particularly in the dungeons and vaults. Physical contact. Some visitors and staff describe the sensation of being pushed, touched, or having their clothes tugged on by unseen forces. Ghostly apparitions. Reported sightings include shadowy figures, mists, and spectral forms of well-known ghosts such as the Headless Drummer Boy and the Lady Glemis. And then there's also unexplained sounds. Visitors report hearing disembodied voices, phantom bagpipes from the lost piper, and the drumming of the Headless Horseman. So, all right, there's more, but I got to keep going because we're going to run out of time here. I got to leave here in just a few minutes for work. So, all right, let's see. Charleville Castle. All right. This is in Ireland as well. It's considered to be one of Europe's most haunted buildings. Famous for persistent legends of children's spirits, particularly in an 8-year-old girl named Harriet. Okay. So the legend of Harriet. Sorry. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing this. The most prominent and frequently encountered ghost is Harriet, the youngest daughter of the 3rd Earl of Charleville. So she died in 1861 and was playing in the main staircase area, reportedly sliding down the banister when she lost her grip and fell to the stone below and died instantly from a broken neck. Since her death, countless visitors and staff reported encountering her spirit. It's also mainly associated with the main staircase where people feel sudden cold spots. Okay, manifestations. They report hearing a young girl singing, laughing, or screaming throughout the night. Some have even seen her apparition, describing her a little girl with golden ringlets and a blue-white dress, skipping past her, appearing on the stairs. She seems to be very playful in nature. She's very friendly, mischievous spirit who enjoys playing hide and seek. While there are stories of her playfully locking people in the closets or leading children by the hand. So there's also a young boy of similar age. The spirit is believed to be the boy, to be Henry Walter Blair, Harriet's uncle, who died from influenza at the age of 7 in London. His body was brought back to Ireland and buried in the family vault in the castle, and the two spirits they're also often referred to as the terrible twins due to their mischievous activity. Okay. So basically, yeah, it sounds like a really cool location, especially if you don't mind children's spirits, as I'm pointing behind me to the dolls up on the shelf up there. Yeah. So somebody reported to me the other day that they actually thought they saw a doll move while they were watching the podcast. So if you're listening to this, if you want to go back to some of the podcasts we just did, you might watch them. There was also something that moved my desk, which unfortunately you guys didn't see. I watched it move across my desk. I wasn't moving, wasn't even touching the desk. But yeah, little kid spirits are very mischievous for sure. All right. So let's do the last one. This is number 8. So Bhangarh, oh my gosh. Bhangarh Fort. I can't even pronounce this. Bhangarh Fort, and this is Indian's cursed fortress. All right, so this is a 17th century fort in Awara district in India, known as one of the most haunted places in the country. The location, located on the edge of the Saraska Tiger Reservoir, the fort is surrounded by eerie legends that contribute to the its myths and reputations. All right. So the curse of Princess Tava. Sorry if I mispronounced this. One of the most widely circulated legends attributed to the fort's demise to a black magic sorcerer named Saga. She was in love with a beautiful princess. Saga was in love with a beautiful princess, Ratanavi. but knew his affection for her would never be returned. One day he tried to trick her into loving him by casting a spell on a bottle of perfume she was meant to use. The princess grew suspicious of the perfume, and upon discovering his plot, threw the bottle at a large stone boulder. The curse, the boulder was said to have been crushed her, but before dying, he cursed the fort and its inhabitants, dooming them to death and desolation. Shortly after, an attack on the fort resulted in the massacre of the entire population, including the princess. Wow. All right, so the curse, a different legend claims the fort's downfall was caused by a curse of a guy named Guru Bala Nath. When King Manao Sai decided to build the fort, he first sought permission from the hermit who lived there. The Sinding granted permission on the condition that the fort's shadow never touch his place of meditation. The broken promise. A later successor ignored the warning and added taller walls, casting a shadow on the sacred spot. So it says the consequences. The curse led to the destruction of the fort and the town. Local folklore states that to this day, any roof built in this area will collapse. Okay, so paranormal reputation and restrictions. The fort is officially considered haunted, and the survey, the Indy enforcing strict blah. So this doesn't make any sense. So rules against entering the premises after dark. So you can't basically enter the premises after dark. I don't know why they put all this word stuff in here. The way they word this, it's like they switch words around. So what word should be in front, it's in back. It's strange how they word this. Okay. Prohibited after sunset. That's exactly what they should have just said. They have placed a forbidden entry to the fort's borders between sunset and sunrise. This is based off the locals' belief that spirits of the dead roam the ruins at night. Many people report feeling a sense of unease or panic within the fort. Visitors have claimed to hear disembodied voices, music, and the sound of bells, especially in the evening. Unconfirmed stories. While there's a prevalent belief that those who remain in the fort after night never return, guards and caretakers who work at the fort during the day often deny ever having seen or felt any paranormal activity. All right, so that's pretty much it. Here we go. Here's some ghost stories. All right, alleged paranormal activity. Ghost sightings. Visitors and locals have claimed to see apparitions such as the black, sari-clad woman, as well as shadow figures, misty shapes, and full-bodied ghosts of soldiers and princesses. Audio phenomenon. Unexplained noises like footsteps, whispering, music, screaming women, and breaking bangles are frequently reported after the dark. Negative energy. Many people visiting the fort feel a heavy sense of unease, anxiety, or panic. Some have even reported a sudden noticeable drop in temperature regarding the warm weather. I've experienced that. It's crazy. Unexpected accidents. Local folklore, including tales of daredevils who attempt to stay in the overnight and meet with unfortunate accidents and have never returned. So they basically pass away. So they're saying there's strange events that happen where people pass away at night. So paranormal researchers have noticed unusual electromagnetic phenomenon, or EV. Basically it's just where your K2s light up or your electronic devices fail in certain areas of the fort, leading to some to suggest that the presence of an energy vortex. So unusual occurrences, according to accounts, including objects moving on their own and doors and windows opening and closing without explanation. Okay. So this basically goes on to a whole bunch of other stuff. We're out of time. So Anyways, guys, have you guys been to any of these locations? Have you ever experienced any of this paranormal activity? What are your thoughts on these locations? You know, have you had the pleasure of investigating this location? Go ahead and comment down below. Let us know what you think. And always, if you'll do me a favor and give us a like, a subscribe, and a thumbs up, we really appreciate it. Again, we're growing. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. We're just a small channel now, but I think we'd like to get more and more. So whatever platform you're watching or listening on, it really helps us. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you guys on the next one.